The more brilliant we're convinced the strategy is, the more essential we're convinced the strategy is, the more likely it is that we're going to underestimate how difficult it is to execute because we see how essential this is. We see how necessary. Surely they can see it. When strategies die, it's rarely because of lack of genius.
So the first trap is the urgency trap. I think I know what you mean by that, but how would you describe it?
Weeks are going by. Everyone is as busy as they can be, and you're not making any progress on that most important thing.
So what do people trip up on? What's the culprit?
Really human nature. It's natural, completely natural for human beings to respond in the moment to what is most urgent. The day job, what we call the whirlwind, all the activities necessary to maintain the business always feel in the moment more urgent than strategic priorities. This is why nobody gets a pass on this one. And yet we tend to think if people just understood how important this is, they would do it. But importance doesn't drive behavior. Urgency does.
So how does a leader stay out of the urgency trap?
I like the quote from James Clear in Atomic Habits. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And this doesn't happen on its own. Leaders need to create mechanisms for systems, for driving energy towards non-urgent activities. You cannot expect that it's going to happen because people know it's important.
The second execution trap is the complexity trap. How would you describe that?
Execution doesn't like complexity. The two best friends of execution, simplicity and transparency.
I guess when you say that, everybody gets it.
They get that one. We've all stepped in that one before.
So, but sometimes the plan is complex.
Right.
So what do you do? What do you suggest to a leader to not get caught in complexity?
I almost hate to say it for that reason, because I'm looking at these leaders and I know the complexity of what they're trying to accomplish. Here's a good exercise. If you can look at your strategy in terms of one breakthrough objective per team, what would it look like? So if every team is clear on the one critical objective necessary for the strategy, in addition to their day job, if you can get it down to that level, you're in a really nice position to execute a strategy.
So the next execution trap seems to go hand in hand with the complexity trap. Tell us about the target trap.
The target trap is where a leader has a concept posing as a target. It's very difficult to execute on concepts, right? The language of execution, it is targets. And yet concepts are really seductive. They're compelling. This is how things start. These are our ideas. We know we need to be more consultative in our sales approach. And we know, but that's a concept. We know that we need to take a collaborative approach towards innovation and we need to streamline our work processes, right? It's okay if it starts as a concept, but if it stays a concept, even a very compelling one that we're really good at talking about, it's going to die a concept.
Number 4, the persuasion trap. This one made me laugh, especially coming from you.
I might be the poster child for this trap. I get it.
I really like this one. In version 2.0, you go into this in detail, but I don't remember you talking about it in the first one.
No, we didn't see this right away. It's so natural for leaders to think, for everybody to think, that we've really got to sell this thing. And that has its place. But if you're a very persuasive person, it's easy to think that being persuasive is how you get engagement. And that's really not true. Like, I might be a very, very persuasive person. But ultimately, if the strategy requires people's hearts and minds, like if I really need them committed, not just compliant, then it's really more about pulling them in. And that's different.
So what does that look like?
Sometimes a little goes a long way. For instance, in our 4 disciplines work, it took us a while, but we finally realized we had to let the team members, the teams, choose the lead measures, the predictive indicators for goal outcome. Even if it meant choosing off of a menu of options that we had created, they needed to feel part of the solution. They needed to have the final say on the how they were going to go at the goal. And that made a huge difference.
Number 5 is the futility trap. And we've talked about this one before.
Yeah, we have.
When people feel that the goals are just out of reach.
Right. And as ominous as this one is, it's sometimes hard to know when you're in it. People that are caught in this sort of soul-crushing sense of futility where they can't connect the dots between where they are and where they need to go, they don't rebel, they don't argue, right? It usually shows up as just compliant behavior or maybe just sort of a resignation back into the day job, just fall back to the whirlwind.
So what advice do you have for staying out of the futility trap?
I think it starts by being clear on the difference between change and uncertainty. We think that people, I used to say this, I used to just take it for granted that people resist change. But there's been a lot of work that's been done on this, and people don't inherently resist change. People actually initiate change quite a lot. We think people resist change because what they resist is uncertainty. People don't fear change, they fear the uncertainty that comes with change. And for a leader, that's actually good news. If I'm a leader and we're driving new goals, change is inevitable, right? The change that comes with any new goal, with any new pivot, that's inevitable. There's not much I can do about that. But there is a lot I can do about uncertainty. We started looking at 4 disciplines this way, but I would say for any execution methodology, it really goes a long way. Good execution principles go a long way to reducing uncertainty. Really clear goals at all levels, predictive indicators, real-time scoreboards, all reduce uncertainty and they reduce that soul-crushing futility.